Now, he cared that he wasn't allowed to continue to rant and ramble for a period of time, but about the person who passed out behind him, no, Donald Trump didn't seem bothered. And why would he be? This is the same president who just saw 8 American service members have their lives stolen from them so that he could wage a war on behalf of Israel and distract from the Epstein files. And so Donald Trump continued to rant and ramble in a speech that was just as much of a collapse effort as the person behind him. Now, we're going to get into that moment and the insane reaction we saw from Trump and what he went on to joke about afterwards. But I want to start with the beginning of this rally intended to raise support for Thomas Massie's primary opponent, where Donald Trump began by attacking President Obama.
So a short time ago, under a man named Sleepy Joe Biden, has anyone heard of him? Has anyone heard of him? How about Barack Hussein Obama? He went to Jesse Jackson's funeral. He spoke, and it was like a political hit job. And the family of Jesse Jackson got angry as hell at him because they understand they hated each other. You know, he was there. But I loved watching that. That was so. The family goes outside and they start screaming at him.
Why are we talking about President Obama in Kentucky? I don't know. I truly don't know. And I think it's because Donald Trump cannot separate in his brain who he's mad at when he's angry. He's in Kentucky because Thomas Massie is facing a primary challenge in which tens of millions of dollars have been spent against him by people like Elon Musk. Unsurprisingly, the Israeli billionaire Miriam Adelson, who promised Donald Trump $250 million if he ran for a third term, is trying to get Massie booted out of his seat. But Donald Trump really can't separate Barack Obama from Thomas Massie, from Hillary Clinton, or from anyone else who upsets him. And so Trump, in his deranged state, just lost his mind. It was embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as Trump praising himself with fake financial figures while talking to Jake Paul. This $1 trillion over a period of 4 years.
$1 trillion over a period of much less, over a period of 4 years. We got $18 trillion. And Jake Paul knows what that means. $18 trillion in 11 months, because they haven't calculated the 12th month. So we have 18 trillion in 11 months. Say in a year, what difference does it make compared to substantially less than 1 trillion in 4 years? You would say they didn't do a good job, Jake. I didn't ask Jake who he voted for, but I don't think it was Kamala. I don't think so. I think your whole reputation would be shot if you said, oh, I voted for Kamala. That would be the end of your whole career, Jake.
What a scary campaign that Democrats are going to have to face from the messaging of the right. Donald Trump claims he brought in a fake $18 trillion investment from the Gulf states and is hanging out with the failed boxer Jake Paul. Oh no, how are we going to outmessage that? Maybe exploding gas prices, inflation for all goods, a war costing us billions that nobody wanted, and the Epstein files still not being released. Maybe that's more important. And speaking of that war, Donald Trump now has a new term for it as he sees how unpopular his war with Iran is.
Anytime in history, and that number is going to be, wait till you see the numbers by the end of the year. We did an excursion. You know what an excursion is? We had to take a little trip to get rid of some evil, very evil people. It should have been done. For 47 years, they've been killing our people.
Donald, you're actually responsible for Americans being killed, 8 service members, and you don't seem to care. So I don't really think you can make that claim. But this is what Donald Trump is trying to use to defeat Thomas Massie, little Jake Paul, bragging about fake investments and attacking Barack Obama. He really thinks that's going to seal the deal and connect with the people in the district. Actually, that's not what happened, because midway through the speech, a woman behind Donald Trump collapsed. What happened from there will probably leave you unsurprised, but still disgusted. You have a doctor in the house, please? Doctor. Trump looked around and clearly didn't seem to care.
Gavin Newsom, in an interview, you have a doctor in the house, please? Doctor?
She interrupted my speech. We're going to have to stop. But what he did right after was classic Trump.
Want to play a song? Do you think the people backstage are listening to me? How about Ave Maria? Well, because this is going to be okay. How about putting it in right now, Ave Maria, if they are listening? Ave Maria by Pavarotti.
Eventually, when the medical emergency was handled, Donald Trump went back to rambling. And of course, he returned to the topic he was on before, attacking California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is currently being threatened by Iran. So naturally, Trump thought it was a great time to joke about that as well.
Well, thank you very much. We're talking about Gavin Newsom. Doesn't seem like a very good subject right now. It made that young lady not feel so good. Anyway, he admitted he has mental problems, that he's not a smart person, that he is a mental lack of ability.
First of all, Donald Trump attacking Gavin Newsom for dyslexia and saying we want a president who can read is incredibly ironic. Donald Trump himself struggles to read and appears to be in cognitive decline. I don't really think he realizes the irony of that. He also doesn't seem to realize how insensitive it is to say, well, a woman passed out. I don't know if she's okay or not, but I bet she hates Gavin. Don't we hate Gavin? Again, let's remember Donald Trump was in Kentucky not because he wanted to go after Gavin Newsom or Barack Obama. He was there to stir up hate against his biggest adversary, Thomas Massie. And that is exactly what Donald Trump did. I wouldn't say it went too well.
One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
Now, as a lot of you know, I'm not quick to give credit to MAGA. I have my reservations about the big shift in Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm certainly not going to give a ton of flowers to Lauren Boebert or Nancy Mace just for fun. Without them, we probably wouldn't even have a vote to release the Epstein files, and we still haven't gotten them fully. So if people keep pushing for that, it would mean a lot. But I still have a hard time saying, let's welcome them into the club. Let's give them a couple of high fives. What great patriots. I just can't do that. With Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically, it's because she talks about political violence and how our politics has changed, yet she doesn't condemn it when Donald Trump threatens Democrats or encourages illegal actions from service members. Thomas Massie, out of all the Republicans who have battled against Donald Trump, has arguably done so the most consistently and with a set of principles that aren't as easily manipulated as others. Now, I disagree with Thomas Massie on a lot. That goes without saying. But if there is going to be a Republican representing that district, there may be no better person than Thomas Massie. Donald Trump is making a fool of himself. And the fact that he even has to go into Massie's district shows that his endorsement alone isn't enough anymore. Trump always claims the people he endorses always win. But clearly that's not guaranteed anymore. It says a lot about the current state of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. I even saw a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend interviewing people in line at the Trump rally. One Republican admitted he wasn't even from the district. He drove 2 hours just to see Trump, but he still believed Thomas Massie was a patriot. So Trump's rally in Massie's district is filled with people who aren't even from the district, many of whom still support Massie. That shows there's a real chance Trump may not succeed in pushing out the Republican who's causing him the most problems. And that means he may have to reckon with the fact that he's losing influence within his own party. The threats don't land the same anymore. And if Republicans start realizing what the consequences of a Trump presidency could be, maybe they'll finally start doing their jobs in Congress instead of surrendering their power. Congress is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government. In fact, many argue it should be the most powerful branch when it comes to checking executive authority. All those Republicans who warned that Kamala Harris would lead us into World War III and send American sons to war, now the situation has flipped. If they recognize the political liability Donald Trump represents, and they're no longer afraid of him, that creates a huge problem for Trump, who has relied on intimidation throughout his political career.
And now Massie, he's the worst. And I don't say that. I never hit a guy like this. The guy's a boss. We call him Rand Paul Jr. He votes against everything. But at least I like Rand a little bit. Can't love a guy that votes. I got him elected twice. If I didn't endorse him, he was not going to get elected. Do you remember that? I came and I did a little rally, and Rand votes against us all the time too. But at least he's okay. I wouldn't say the greatest.
Meanwhile, Thomas Massie says he was threatened by the FBI simply for talking about Epstein. If that's true, then something is deeply wrong. The FBI should be investigating wrongdoing, not threatening congressional staff. Anyone who assists in obstructing justice should face consequences. Thomas Massie may not agree with everyone politically, but continuing to push for transparency and accountability matters. If you want to support that, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like on the video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting.